welcome in everybody. The temple doors are open and the cleric is in the confessional. Welcome in everybody. If you do not know who I am, my name is Alec the Cleric. I'm a Borderlands and Wonderlands content creator, a YouTube editor, a podcaster, and an all-around funny dad who has no idea what he's doing when he plays games, but we have a lot of fun anyway. This is episode 12 of The Confessional, where we interview incredible and interesting people from all walks of life and places. And the best part of the show is that you, as the viewer, gets to participate in tonight's episode. All you have to do is join our Discord server, !Discord for those of you who are live here in the chat right now. Or you can click the link in the description if you're checking this out later on YouTube or in podcast form on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you download amazing content. The Confessional will be there. Join us on Sunday evenings, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the live broadcast here on twitch.tv/AlecTheCleric. You can ask your questions of our guests, and your question will probably be read live on the air for our guests to answer. Don't forget, too, that you can follow us on Twitter at ClericCast to see who will be coming up in the next week's episode so you can stay fully up to speed on all things confessional. Or, if you want to support the show even further, you can become a patron. We have a Patreon up, patreon.com/thetempleconfessional. All you need to do is log on to there, sign up to be a patron, and you'll get some sweet, sweet, sweet rewards for that. It's actually patreon.com/theconfessional, not the Temple Confessional. I'll fix that in post. I am an editor after all. Anyway, enough with that boring intro stuff. Let's get right into this. Joining me this week for our 12th episode is an absolutely amazing creator that I am so excited and honored to have a chance to get to talk to again. He is a streamer, a YouTuber, a writer, a podcaster, basically someone who's had his fingers in just about every form of content creation under the sun, and just an absolutely incredible person in general. Please welcome JoPaWrites. JoPa, how are you this evening?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We just moved into the new place, so this is the first episode from our new place, and man, I'm just excited to be back, and I'm excited to be here and excited to get to interview you. So why don't you start off by just telling everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do?
As he said, my name is JoPaWrites. JoPa is what most people call me. I do a wide variety of things. I have a few different YouTube channels. I do everything from looter shooters to straight up shooters like battle royales, all that kind of stuff. But I also have a sweet spot for RPGs, JRPGs, all that kind of stuff. As far as anything else, I love all kinds of different things, whether it's enjoying our fantasy superhero type TV shows or sports. I mean, today I was watching NFL, and then I was watching Rings of Power, and then I was watching, so I'm a big fan of variety, you could say.
Yeah, I'll say. I mean, you've pretty much done, like I said before, every form of content creation that there is to think about. And I guess one of the biggest questions I've always had is, which of all of the platforms that you've tried your hand at content creation, which one do you enjoy the most? And also, which one do you find to be the most challenging to get started on for somebody who's an aspiring creator?
So I enjoy streaming the most. Just the interaction with the chat, with meeting new people, all that kind of stuff. But I will say it is probably the hardest to get started with nowadays. If you started years and years ago, Twitch was a platform that had plenty of discoverability. If you knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody, it was easy to grow. You could all meet and form a little community. It was very nice. Nowadays, it feels like if you aren't doing 15 other things on different platforms, Instagram Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts or whatever the case may be, and getting your content out to other platforms, growth is very, very difficult just from streaming alone. So I've actually had a lot more success recently on the YouTube side of it, even though my editing leaves a bit to be desired. I at the end of the day, you just got to put content that you would watch out into the world, and you'll find an audience for it. But yeah, Twitch is interesting these days, because as much as I do enjoy it, it is definitely an up and down platform.
Yeah, it's definitely a different animal than back in the day, that's for sure. Speaking of back in the day, where did kind of your story begin when it comes to content creation? Where did that journey get started for you, and how did you get on this road to being a content creator?
So everyone will be shocked to learn that I started with Destiny, right? Destiny 1, I'm a day 1 D1 player. That's what everyone I had met a lot of people through the Destiny community. I had interacted with them, some of them on Twitter, and they really encouraged me to start making content, not necessarily to generate viewership, but it's easy to make clips. You can keep some of those all-time favorite moments of beating certain raids, of doing certain awesome things in PvP. And so it started a while back when I was playing Destiny 2, and I had some other creators who I found to be really fun to watch. So I definitely jumped in that, and I started streaming, and I pretty much have a scatterbrain, so that's why you'll see me do a little bit of everything, because I get bored easily if I'm just stuck doing one thing for a long time. So I do like to play different games, kind of learn different platforms and jump on them and see what kind of content I can create.
I got you. I got you. So, what was it then that made you hit that go live button for the first time? Because you said that obviously, you had a bunch of other creators that you looked up to and you were kind of taking notes from. And did you just kind of think one day, oh, I mean, I could do that, or was there kind of more of a light bulb moment? Like, what made you actually go and click the go live for the first time?
So I knew some streamers, and at the time they were smaller, and they just really were meeting different people, other people to game with, other people to uh, talk about Destiny. I am a talker. I'm an extrovert. So being able to do that was just one day I was just like, why not? What's keeping me from doing it? And that's really why I did it myself, because whether I streamed to one person or 100 people doesn't really matter. It's fun. If I can have a conversation with somebody, if we can talk about the game in a medium that's better than like Twitter, where everything turns a little bit toxic, or people are misinterpreted because it's just over text and you only have a few characters. You know what I'm saying? It means so much more to have that conversation on Twitch. They can see my reaction. They can tell when I'm joking. I can make people laugh, but also make them think. It just kind of, it was an easy decision for me personally.
No, that's awesome because I know that's something that a lot of aspiring creators struggle with is just hitting go live for the first time. But
Yep.
and I've known you for a lot of years. I mean, for
Yep.
those who didn't know, I mean, JoPa and I used to host a podcast together. I
Yep.
mean, we've known each other for years and years and years, and yeah, you were always very easy to conversate with, especially about any topic, really. So I mean, that's a huge gift to be able to just kind of talk. Because honestly, I
Yeah.
think that's what is hard for so many people is that they just don't know how to talk, even when there's not a whole lot of people there to listen. So, like, what would you say to an aspiring creator then who is maybe just starting out on Twitch or just starting out on streaming on YouTube or any of the other countless streaming services that are out there? What's a good way to maybe practice that skill and kind of hone your ability to talk, even if there's not 50 people, 100 people in your stream, if it's just one or two people? Like, what's some things that you do or have tried or advice you might have for a creator like that?
So, especially first starting off, maybe you make a list of topics that you might bring up, recent things that you've done. I know good conversation starters are anything from shows you've watched recently, without spoilers. Be very careful about spoiling things for people in your Twitch chat. But have a list or have an idea on things that you would want to talk about,
Hmm.
that you find interesting, that maybe happened to you, in like you went to a restaurant and you tried some unique food, you went to a vacation and you did something, and other people might want to talk about their vacation or something like that. There's so many different things, new games that are coming out. Just have an idea on what you want to talk about before you hit the go live button. And then number two is that everyone who plays games has their own level of skill.
Mm.
So you're more likely to get and retain a viewership unless you're in the top 0.01% of players skill wise. You're more likely to retain viewers if you're interesting and keep the conversation flowing. So w- take a time, maybe set a timer on your phone or something so you are aware at all times that you're still live, you're not just playing a game, and that you need to have that conversation with your chat whether you're in the middle of a firefight or not. You can still be talking. You can talk to your teammates. That is helpful if you're playing a co-op. If you're playing by yourself, though, you just need to be talking as much as possible. And if you feel yourself retreating inwards, find something to talk about. Think of anything that might be interesting, whether it's in the game, outside the game, doesn't matter.
I like that. I like that. And that's such a good piece of advice, too, especially about just like talk about something interesting that happened to you during your day, you know, like or even a freaking interesting sandwich you ate earlier.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be this like deep, in depth, crazy topic, you know, and you don't have to be 100% knowledgeable about the game that you're playing and all of that stuff. You can just be you on camera.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that. So, getting back to your content specifically, lately, obviously, you know, you started with Destiny, and lately you've been making a ton of Destiny content, which is great timing because Destiny has been pumping out content like nobody's business. What about Destiny kind of keeps you coming back to it?
I believe since I've been playing since like it first launched, it's definitely my comfort game.
Mm,
I am good enough in PvP to have really good games and really fun games, but also not take it too seriously. It's not. I'm not treating it like a tournament. I'm not. I might get tilted from time to time, but most of the time I'm pretty casual with it, and I'm able to just have a good time. And there's such a wide variety of things to do.
mm.
Now, it's Destiny. I know is not a game that's not going to be for everybody, but for me personally, it hits that sweet spot of having harder content that I can take on with friends that like a raid or Grandmaster Nightfall that might take us a little bit of time, an hour or two, but we have to work together. We have to make a build. That's really one of the things I love about Destiny is that builds do matter a lot, and every single season, which is every 3 months, there's new weapons to try, new builds to make, and lately it's been even crazier because they've been overhauling the ability system. So every single season, there's been new abilities to try, and just new exotics and all that kind of stuff that really keeps me engaged as someone who one has really kind of found my footing on YouTube and can really focus on the things I enjoy doing and don't have to feel like on Twitch where it can often be like, okay, if you're not doing carries, if you're not helping people through raids or doing like escorting people through missions or whatever the case may be, you don't get the same level of viewership. So knowing that I can have the conversations on Twitch and not have to worry about my viewership, but translate that well to YouTube, and it's the type of content that I want to make that can be successful. That's really why Destiny is a main game for me, especially with my content. I do play all kinds of other games, whether it's on stream or off, but YouTube especially is hard focus on Destiny, and then even streaming, it's like probably 60 to 70% Destiny at this point.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And like you said, I mean, Destiny has got a lot of stuff to offer. And we've actually got our first question from the community here. This one comes from Captain Spalding. He would like to know, what is it about PvP games that have attracted your attention?
So personally, I grew up playing sports. I grew up being competitive. So having a way to get that adrenaline rush of winning a match, of playing well myself, that's really what I enjoy. Just that little bit of competitive nature where I don't I don't take it so seriously that it's gonna leave me with a bitter taste after I finish the day. I know there's some people that'll play PvP games and they just get so down on themselves that'll carry over with them for a long time. For me, it's just like sports. I go in, I play the game, I get frustrated, I get happy because I do well, whatever the case may be, and then I leave it all there and then go. And it kind of gets that bit of competitive nature out of me that otherwise I feel like I'm lacking. I'm at my age, playing sports is there's not a lot of options out there. So it makes it a lot easier. I can do other things to be competitive, and gaming is one. PvP especially is one of those things that helps me out a lot.
That's awesome. So, what specifically then about Destiny's PvP is so interesting to you? Because Destiny is a very unique game in the sense of like it's you feel like a super powerful badass, especially when you're doing raids or PvE content, and then they take that same thing and they convert it into a PvP experience. So, what about that experience kind of scratches that competitive itch to you and keeps you coming back for more?
I think it's a combination of two things specifically. One is you can still make builds and have them work in PvP, right?
Mm,
There's not a lot of games where the work that I put in to make the character perform as I want them to really pays off. And Destiny is one of those examples that I can have the stats that I want, I can put on the perks that I want, I can use the exotics I want, and it all kind of comes together to make the build and the play style that I want specifically. Number two is because of the power fantasy, space magic stuff, I don't take it too seriously
mm,
because I know there's a lot of abilities, a lot of things people will call cheese in the game, but for me that's fun. I'm in it to have a good time. And so if I do something silly and I shoulder charge somebody and then two other people explode, that's my type of content. Because now I'm having a good time. They might not be having a good time, but I'm having a good time with it, you know? So that's really where I love that kind of PvP. And I feel like any game that can provide me the shenanigans and the okay, let me do some silly clips, you know what I'm saying? That's what I want. Because I'm not gonna ever be an esports player. I'm not going
mm,
to be a hyper competitive CS:GO player or Rainbow Six or anything like that. I want, and Overwatch does it a little bit, and that's why for a long time Apex was my favorite BR is because of abilities and because of all the different ways the game plays. You can do silly stuff and still be successful. It's
mm.
not like you know what I'm saying. You can still have a good time, and that's really what draws me to Destiny 2 PvP. So
No, I like that a lot, and it's cool to hear that because there's a lot of times, and this is the reason why you said it earlier, the people that kind of take themselves a little too seriously when they play PvP style games, like that is me to a T, and that's why I struggle to play PvP games anymore is because I will get so hardcore down on myself and whatnot, but for you like these PvP games that offer that little bit of twist that makes it a little less serious
yeah,
is what kind of keeps you coming back and keeps scratching that itch for you. That's cool.
exactly.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. So you mentioned a couple of other games there, like Apex and things like that. What else besides Destiny are you into right now? Do you have plans for content outside of Destiny going forward? I mean, what's kind of the future of your content there?
So for a long time, my focuses were Destiny, and then Warzone was a big part of it, and that is kind of worked out well for Twitch. That's it doesn't matter for me what game I play. I don't really concern my Twitch necessarily. I know they're going to fluctuate up and down. So because of that, I've split into separate YouTube channels. And so now with the fall coming up, I'm really looking forward to Warzone 2, the Division Heartland, which they just kind of teased recently as a PvEVP game in the Division universe, and games that are outside of Destiny like that. That's what I'm really kind of hyped about is finding a new BR or a new shooter to play that I can have in conjunction with Destiny. And then on top of that, I have a third channel, and that is for RPGs and stuff like that. So everything from Tactics Ogre to God of War, all of that kind of stuff. I do enjoy those single player games. I do like general playthroughs of those, and I enjoy those a lot too, especially on stream. I've also recently started playing Temtem
Oh,
with my wife. So this has worked out really well because on stream I can play it on my PS5 and she can play it in the same room on the Switch, and we play co-op together. And she's just hanging out with me in here, so it kind of really it's been nice because the chat's actually liked it because I can kind of yell back and forth with her while she's in the room with me, and they'll ask her questions, and she'll talk trash to me, I'll talk trash to her, and it'll be a lot of fun. It's been a really enjoyable experience. So that's one that we're just kind of starting the journey. It just came out this last week, but that's another one that I've been enjoying so far. In addition to Destiny, so and then I've been playing Genshin Impact from day one, so I still have that one as like a I'm not doing anything and I'm listening to music or I'm editing or doing something that's not doesn't require a lot of attention, or I'll start my stream with almost like a Genshin Impact just chatting segment, so I have some gameplay, but I'm just really focused on talking to people there. And that's just a kind of a more casual game that I don't take too seriously because the game is super easy once you've been playing it for almost 2 years now.
oh, I feel that. Yeah, that was one that I thankfully dodged because I feel like I would have gotten very, very addicted to it very
It can
quickly.
it can be real bad. I can tell you that.
So looking back then, like even before you started your content creation journey, obviously with this vast we've talked to people who have are variety streamers or make content for a variety of games, but you have always been one of the people that I've known that has like the most vast library of content that you're
Yeah.
willing to do just because you love in general gaming so much. Like you can
Yeah.
find something in just about every genre that you
Yep.
enjoy playing. But if you had to look back, like before your content creation journey began, going all the way back, what's one game that you can think of that really kind of sparked that love of gaming for you?
I think it's a tie, and this might be a little bit of a cop out. There's two distinct points that I can remember falling in love with gaming. One was GoldenEye
Ooh.
with friends, and I would just again a shooter where we can do silly stuff. We had odd job, we had big head mode. You know what I'm saying? You had a lot of variety there. You could really do silly things, but take it like if you wanted to talk trash and be competitive with your friends, and they would kind of talk trash back or use the characters they're not supposed to use that were banned. So that was a big one for me. That was my first experience with any kind of co-op or PvP. And then, but the really one, and this is gonna sound surprising, the one that I was addicted to for years and years in like high school and everything was FIFA.
Oh.
Now, I am a big sports fan. I'm a long time I've watched every sport from football, baseball, basketball. That's what I grew up on, and then I found my love of soccer with FIFA. And I, funnily enough, I knew all the players during the like my high school years, and everyone would wonder, where do you know this? Where do you know this? I didn't watch any of the games really. I just played FIFA every year. I had teams that I would build. I would do all this stuff, and so I would come home from school. I would have football practice. I'd come home, I'd shower, and I'd sit down with a 2 liter of Dr. Pepper and just play FIFA for hours and hours. And I don't know why. I mean, I played like college football games and Madden during that time. I didn't really play anything like Call of Duty. I didn't play any shooters during that era. I did play JRPGs though. I played everything from like Final Fantasy Tactics to I mean, Suikoden. That's one of my favorite franchises of all
Oh.
time. So but yeah, it was FIFA that was carrying the load there, and eventually I've transitioned away from playing many sports games. Although I do play them with like my kids or my cousins if I want to talk a little trash, play a little 2K, you know. But other than that, yeah, it's weird that I moved away from the sports games, which were really where I spent most of my time, especially in my early years of gaming.
No, that's really cool, and it's fascinating too because like sports games in general are pretty niche, right? Like there are people that can make sports games interesting to watch and stuff like that, but I always remember, especially FIFA was hyper competitive if you got into it. But
Yes.
then also it was like sports games were just something you kind of just, sat on the couch with friends and played. And it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like it's interesting that that you went from sports games into the shooters and the looter shooters and the things that you're into now. But that's really cool. And yeah, you were nodding there, like FIFA gets
Yeah,
ridiculously
it
competitive.
can get pretty intense for sure.
But no, that's really cool, man. That's cool to know that like you could love. I think a lot of people think that you have to either be a giant nerd and love video games so much, or a sports fan and love sports. But there's this middle ground that you can be both at the same time.
So the funny thing about that is when I was in high school, I was on the baseball team, the football team, and then the basketball team for a little bit. But I read a book every month, of everything from the Wheel of Time to Lord of the Rings, all that kind of stuff. I read comic books. I played video games. I did a bit of everything. So I guess the variety has always been a part of me. You know what I'm saying? I like just a wide range of things. And now, as somebody who has watched video games come to the forefront, I've watched nerd culture come into the forefront. We have the MCU. We have all this stuff now. It's been such a great thing to watch expand over the course of time. And I think now we're at the point where people take it for granted. And I really wish I want to be one of those. Back in my day, we didn't have this newfangled MCU, and people talk about how video games were so much better back in the day, and I'm like, have you looked at the graphics for any of those games? Have you played them and realized how janky they were, and the stories that you loved would feel kind of generic in today's age, as everything's other under such a kind of a closer microscope. So I always find that very interesting, and I always laugh when everyone talks about the old school gaming and nerd scene, because it's so different nowadays. But I think it's so much better, and I think anyone who doesn't see it that way is just taking the all the stuff we have now for granted a little bit.
Well, and it's nostalgia, right? Like
Yeah,
it's looking back with rose-colored glasses, and this is something that
absolutely.
the Destiny, or not Destiny, the Borderlands community deals with a lot, is looking back at Borderlands 2, even though it's an amazing game, and like, but there's definitely some people that say like, nothing will ever beat Borderlands 2. It was the best Borderlands ever made. It's forever going to be the best Borderlands ever made, and I'm like, go back and play that thing again and tell me that it doesn't run like a 10-year-old game sometimes.
So my very first Borderlands game was Borderlands 3.
Mm.
And I worked my way backwards. I played through the entire Borderlands 2, Borderlands 1, pre sequel, all that stuff. And Borderlands 3 improved tremendously upon what Borderlands 2 did. I think there were some things that the core community wished it had that was missing, and I feel like that's really why there's those complaints. But I'm with you. I think the improvements when you actually play the game now, if you go in with fresh eyes, Borderlands 3, I think maybe kind of say that. I mean, you could definitely say the story of Borderlands 2, Handsome Jack was just a more compelling
Yeah. No,
figure,
nobody's gonna
right?
argue with that ever.
That's really why that game shines. But if you look at the general systems, it's not. Borderlands 3 has improved. Even Wonderlands. again, I said this to you before it aired. Like Wonderlands is probably my favorite first time playthrough of any game in the Borderlands franchise.
Mm,
I feel like it just lacks like the end game a bit and the variety that I'm specifically looking for.
yeah.
I have never really been a fan of the Borderlands, like beat a boss, go back to the menu, go back in, beat a boss. That's just not personally for me, unless I can do it for a wide variety. But when they had in Borderlands 3 the Malon takedowns and they had a variety of stuff that I enjoyed, I thought that was significantly better for what I was looking for. The Borderlands community might not agree, but I feel like that was a risk worth taking, and I think going into Borderlands 4, maybe there's a balance there of maybe we can have the boss farming, but we can also have takedown like raid like activities, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe give a little something for everybody and let the game simmer a little bit more and not release it early where they don't have unfortunately if you're going to have some Wonderlands and then you have the DLC which all felt a little bit shorter, you know what I'm saying, for calling it a DLC.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, I think there were expectations there that were not met. But overall, I mean, I think all of the games are good in their own. So
Yeah. No, that's
that's
cool.
just me.
And I'm glad that, I mean, it's nice to, so many gamers specifically do that back in my day thing, or look back at the past with rose colored glasses on. And, not to say that any of those games are necessarily bad games or that retro gaming isn't a thing, because it definitely is.
Sure.
And you can get a lot of enjoyment out of that. But it's nice to look forward into the future as well. We got another question from the community here. Are there any games that you are looking forward to in the near future?
Oh man, I have a laundry list.
Lay it out here. Lay it out here
I,
for us.
I, so single player aspect, my all time favorite single player game is the God of War from PlayStation a couple years ago. So the sequel to that, Ragnarok, is really towards the top of my list. I'm also looking forward to Marvel's Midnight Suns,
Mm,
which is a dropping in December. That is a tactical superhero game. So it's
ooh,
like I think SOCOM kind of. It's from the developers of SOCOM or XCOM, one of those games, and it's basically it's tactical. There's cards involved, but it is a darker story because it does follow the Midnight Suns, but it still has Wolverine and Doctor Strange in it and all. So that really is a game that I'm looking forward to that I don't think a lot of people are talking about as many as I would say. And then there's Ayuden Chronicle. That's a JRPG, which is a Sakuden spiritual successor,
oh,
and that one I'm so stoked about. But that's not coming out till next year. And then on the PvP side of it, I'm really looking forward to Warzone 2 because I feel like that could be huge. And then the recently confirmed Division Heartland, which is going to be a PvEVP survival shooter. So those are the things that I think have the potential. Recently, we've been burned a lot. Like I was looking forward to Battlefield 2042 last year, and that kind of flopped hard, especially because for me personally, I was looking forward to that Hazard Zone, which
mm,
was their PvEVP type mode and that's that Destiny has that, the Division had that. That's where I really like to kind of meddle with a little bit of PvE, PvP, combine those, I'm gonna have a good time. But I feel like there's no game on console that's really hit the mark yet.
gotcha.
And so because of that, I play on console, but I also have a PC I can play. But I found the player bases are helped, the hype for the game, the YouTube community is helped tremendously when these games launch on console. They are cross-play in certain aspects, optional cross-play, whatever the case may be, and you allow everybody to kind of enjoy the game all at once. I've seen a lot of games drop, like there's a game Gundam Evolution, which
Mm,
looks it's 6v6, kind of reminds me of Overwatch in like a hero shooter, but they're dropping on Steam in November and then or in September, and then on consoles in December, and I feel like that's a mistake because you're going to lose the opportunity for the hype there. So
I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, that's cool, man. I mean, those are some good games for everybody to put on their radar. Then that's gonna be awesome. That's gonna be awesome. We got another question from the community. This one comes from Casino Jack 24. They would like to know what are some things that you want to see in Borderlands 4? And I know you touched on it a little bit, like the kind of balance between the two. But is there anything else that you would want to see as somebody that's maybe not as deeply involved in the Borderlands franchise as some of, my obviously myself and some of my viewers would be,
sure.
that you would want to see come out of Borderlands 4?
So as somebody who's played a lot of looter shooters, I think and like the ongoing events are good that Wonderlands does, that Borderlands 3 did. I think they can be expanded upon a little bit. So that way they're a little bit more meaningful. You know what I'm saying? Because I know I've talked about this ad nauseum with people, but Marvel's Avengers is a game that I've played for a long time, right? And I think right now has a good path of you have the base game where you can farm everything, but then you have the end game, whether it's raids, whether it's boss farming, no matter what the end game is, one having a bit of variety in the end game is important, in my opinion. Different ways to farm, different ways to level, different way, that's really important to me personally. But also having reasons to come back each week, every couple weeks. That's something for me that is important as well. And it's kind of structuring the game in a way that I know it's not going to be live service necessarily because that's not the way Borderlands handles it. But if you have reasons for me to come back and check it out, now I'm going to come back. I'm to want to keep playing the game and keep checking it out and have something new to see when I log in that has me excited instead of I log in and it's like, okay, I could do the same thing that I was doing yesterday and the day before and the day before that, or I can do something fresh. And that's
Mm.
really where I think a game like Borderlands, I don't know how they do that. Again, I'm not a that, but from watching various looter shooters rise and fall, having a reason to come back, whether it's like, say you have for this is just an example. Say you have your different like Malawan takedowns, and each week a different one is highlighted with extra loot, but also I don't know, different rarity of loot. You get bonus experience and extra loot, and then you can actually like I know with Wonderlands you have like chaos levels or whatever, but if you go to the base Borderland games, just have uh your leveling there after your base levels, just gaining that experience, whatever the case may be. I don't know, but that's just personally what I would like to see. I know the Borderlands community is not in line with my playstyle necessarily, but I think if you want more a bigger player base and more casual players, you need some reason to keep them kind of okay. Oh, did you hear about this happening? That's what happens in Destiny a lot. That a rumble will start with somebody. They'll say, "Oh, did you hear about this?" They're like, "What? There's a secret mission. What? There's an exotic that they just dropped out of nowhere. What? There's, you know what I'm saying? There's a new cutscene that they just dropped, and now the whole community is talking. Everyone's back on to check it out. And guess what happens when you log back in the game? You're gonna play it for a little, you're gonna stay and check out some different things and maybe, oh, I missed playing this, I missed doing these bosses, I missed chasing this sweet loot. But I think a lot of times what can happen with games is once you put them down, if you don't get the excitement rolling again, it can feel like out of sight, out of mind. And that's one of the things that can happen, I feel like, with a game like, especially like Wonderlands. Outriders has that problem recently, and that's just something that I've seen.
Okay. Okay. No, I could see that. And that would definitely be something cool to have because really Borderlands 3 with the community challenge was for the Borderlands community is one of the first ones that gave us these kind of ongoing things to do. But
exactly.
taking that to the next level would be a really cool thing to do. A really cool thing to do. Got another question from the community here. This one comes from Steam Gray. They would like to know what gun is your favorite out of all the ones you've used in the various FPS or looter shooter type games that you've played?
Oh man. So I mean, I'm obviously part of Destiny. There's a gun that you shoot a hive worm that explodes.
Ooh.
But like when you so basically if you get like 20 kills, you charge it up. Every kill you get a times one up to times 20 bonus. And then you shoot it and it explodes for insane damage. That one, and then there's a sword in Destiny that when you hold down the block button essentially, it revs up and it sounds like a chainsaw revving as you're ready to do, and then you attack, and it sounds awesome. The sound design in Destiny is kind of crazy. Borderlands has some fun ones. The recent like Wonderlands had some really insane guns, like the one that shoots out the chainsaws almost
Oh yeah.
circular saw. Yeah, that one was a lot of fun. I use that a lot. And then yeah, those are probably my top at this point, I would say.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And so, I mean, obviously, and it comes across a lot in your content too. Like you love the zany stuff, right? So, like
Yeah.
that definitely plays right into that.
Oh man, there's one in Outriders that you shoot a target and a laser beam comes from the sky and damages them, and you just watch their health disappear from this like sky laser. That's stuff like that. I'm all in. Give me the wackiest, zaniest stuff that you can find, and let me do cool stuff with it. It's one thing to have a cool looking weapon or a funny looking weapon like a fish you shoot at the enemies, or you know what I'm saying, something like that. But if it doesn't do anything, then it's fun to shoot one or two times and then you're over it. But if you give it a way to be powerful in whether it's a unique way or just outright powerful, now not only am I using that silly weapon, but I'm want to use it all the time and keep it in my inventory.
For sure. For sure. I love that. I love that. This one comes from Ozo Vapes for the community. They would like to know what is your favorite class to play in Destiny 2?
I'm a Titan main. I'm day one Titan main. I if I can punch something, I will punch something. I I consider myself one of the best shoulder charge PvP players that you'll find because I have spent countless hours just kneeing people in the face constantly. And I have a build right now that I'll be able to knee them, kill the first one, second one, third one explodes. I'll just keep punching. I'm healing myself in a ring of fire. It is the most fun I will ever have in video games when I can feel like powerful and strong. And yeah, I've just always been a Titan main. I recently actually had to delete my hunter for charity, so I don't even play hunter currently.
Oh no.
And then I do have a warlock, but that's definitely second to my Titan.
I feel that. I feel that. There's something so satisfying about that shoulder charge, isn't there?
It's there's a new melee that they just dropped with Arc 3.0. It's called Thunderclap, and you like charge it up, and then you send out like a wave, like a basically a just a lightning strike, and you can make builds that can juice it up really strong. And oh, it just feels like you're just deleting things, and it's so great.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a couple of the questions that are staples for the confessional. The first question being, JoPa writes, if you were an ice cream, what flavor would you be and why?
Mm, I would say, dang, that's a good one. I would probably say something like Rocky Road because it's
Ooh.
got a lot of different things going on in it, you know, variety there. Uh, tasty, but also not everyone's top choice, but a kind of a sleeper hit.
There you go. There you go. I like that, especially with the lot of bits going on, because there's certainly a lot of that going on. So I could see
Exactly.
that. I could see that. I like that answer a lot. And secondly, a little bit less fun, but one of the things I really like to ask other content creators about is this idea of burnout. Like, this is something that just about every content creator will struggle with at some
Yep.
point in their journey. Have you struggled with that yet in your content creation journey? And if so, like, what is some advice that you can give other aspiring creators for when they start feeling those feelings of burnout in their journey?
So I think everyone does feel burnout, all aspects, whatever the case may be. Even if it's just you're just a video gamer and you just kind of get gaming for a bit of time because you've been doing it for so long. With content creation, there is that little bit of pressure that every time you go live, you have to perform. Or if you're
Mm.
making a video, you have to edit it. Oh, did I make a mistake? Did it underperform because it's the wrong thumbnail? Like, there's a lot of second guessing involved. So as far as burnout goes, I think the thing that I've struggled the most with is not always seeing the growth that I would like to, or seeing like the videos that I think will do well pop off, and understanding that there are a lot of things beyond my control and I can only do the best that I can. And so knowing that and taking a step back and being like, okay, I am doing what I love, doing what I can, and not worried about how many viewers I have, how many subs I have. That's allowed me to kind of get past that. So that way, every time I start to get in that mode of, oh man, should I check where what my numbers are today? I'm like, no, I need to focus on why I'm doing this in the first place. And that is to talk to people, to have a good time. I could have three people in chat, but those three people are talking to me and I have a great day.
Mm.
So because of that, I've definitely learned to lessen the effects, I think, of burnout overall. And I understand that, like, I I can take breaks whenever I want. I can, if I go on a vacation with the wife, that's one of the reasons why I suggest everybody does YouTube if you're a streamer, because if you want to add a little bit of security, YouTube can do that into where maybe you don't stream for 3 or 4 or 5 days, right? Because you do need a break, but you've made a lot of content already. You can probably put up YouTube videos. You can probably find those videos that are going to be maybe they won't all be 10 out of 10 perfect videos, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of times those your videos that you think are the best don't perform as well as the ones you just throw together and are silly, you know what I'm saying? So keeping all that in mind, I feel like burnout is a topic that everyone should be aware of. Everyone should kind of keep an eye on and understand that if you're like, too many people, I think, go past the point of burnout and they start to get bitter or upset or frustrated, and they don't take that step back early enough to be like, okay, why am I burning out right now? Am I
Mm.
overworking? Am I streaming too much, too many hours? Am I trying to do too many different things at one time? And yeah, I think I'm self aware enough to keep myself from doing that too much at this point, but it's definitely happened over the course of my streaming career.
For sure, and that's a very interesting thing that you brought up too, about how, like, diversifying even just your content platforms can help with suppressing that burnout. Like, if you're, streaming for 8 hours a day and you're starting to feel that, it's like, okay, well, maybe you take a step back from that and you make some YouTube content, or it's 2022, so maybe we'll make some TikToks, or
Yeah.
whatever else the case may be. That's a I like that. I like that perspective. That's a very interesting perspective.
So doing that and like going through YouTube route and hitting YouTube partner definitely re-energized me personally, because it made me more aware of all like all like how many people there are that you can get eyes on your content that aren't going to be on Twitch. There was a recent someone posted the numbers of the percentages of how many viewers are on Twitch compared to TikTok, compared to YouTube, compared to Insta Reels, compared to Facebook. And Twitch is like this tiny minority compared to Instagram and YouTube and then TikTok and then Facebook. You know what I'm saying? They're all like there's so many more viewers out there to get eyes on your content. And then once you start making different types of content, I feel like it's a lot more fun because you're not just doing the same thing day in and day out. You go, okay, now I'm gonna stream tomorrow, but I know I want to make a YouTube video. So how can I do that while I'm live? And so that gives you something else to do while you're streaming. If your chat is slow, if you don't, let me do a challenge, let me do a build, let me do a specific type of content, one like solo challenge or anything like that, or let me chase clips in Destiny 2 PvP using a meme weapon, you know what I'm saying, that I can post on TikTok. There's a lot of things that like having an eye on other platforms can help your content on Twitch because now you're thinking about ways to make other types of content instead of just sitting down, going live, and just playing video games for 8 hours.
For sure. For sure. That's fantastic, man. I absolutely adore that. Absolutely adore that perspective. That is solid advice. One last question before we kind of move into the end part here of the show. I've always been curious, and I'm sure everybody else would like to know, where does the username JoPaWrites come from?
So this is going to sound kind of funny, right? So my first name is Josh. My middle name is Paul. And I combined JoPa. That was one of my OG usernames that I used for a long time. And a lot of people think they question me on that all the time. But, and then, so I started writing when I was in college. I've written for sports websites. I've written for gaming websites. And I've just always enjoyed putting my thoughts out there. And it was really what I did for content creation as like a streamer, YouTuber, whatever the case may be. And I do it a lot less nowadays. I actually, my wife writes nowadays and I mostly just edit for her. So I've moved on into a little bit, but the name is just stuck. And I feel like everyone knows me by JoPa. So most people actually kind of call me Papa JoPa more than JoPaWrites, honestly. But overall, yeah, that's kind of where it came from, and yeah, I do get that question quite often. So.
I figured you probably did, and I'm honestly kind of ashamed that after all these years, I haven't asked you that question ever. But I kind of just always figured, like, I kind of always just knew it was an awesome name, so I just rolled with it. But anyway, man, JoPa, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. This has been an absolute delight to get to podcast with you again and learn a bit about what you do and your process in content creation. It's time now for what I like to call the shameless plug portion of the show. So please, where can our audience go to find out more about you and to support your content?
So I'm very fortunate that I can be found on JoPaWrites on platforms: Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, anything you can think of. I down the name there. So JoPaWrites across all platforms. I also have other YouTube channels, more JoPa and then JoPa RPGs. Those are also me. And yeah, that's really where I can be found. I spend probably too much time on Twitter because I love to feed the trolls, but that's just that's something I do from time to time. But yeah, that's pretty much where I can be found.
Perfect, man. Well, that is all the time we have in the confessional this evening, guys. It is time for us to close the curtain on the booth for now. But I want to thank our guest one more time for coming and talking to us, and each and every one of you out there in the chat for participating this evening and asking us questions. If you have any questions that you didn't get to type out tonight or that come up later on, please go ahead and leave a comment on the video if you are watching this on YouTube, or if you're joining us from any of our audio sources out there from your favorite podcasting site, please leave us a review. We would absolutely love to hear from you and get to your other questions. Don't forget to, if you would like to support the show, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/theconfessional. There you can earn some amazing, amazing rewards and get even deeper involved into the confessional. Thank you again, everyone. And remember, be excellent to each other. You guys have a good night.